The kingdom of our father David that is to come. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The rulers sneered at Jesus and said, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the chosen one, the Christ of God." Even the soldiers jeered at him. As they approached to offer him wine, they called out, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." Above him there was an inscription that read, "This is the King of the Jews." Now one of the criminals hanging there reviled Jesus, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." The other, however, rebuking him, said in reply, "Have you no fear of God? For you are subject to the same condemnation. And indeed, we have been condemned justly, for the sentence we received corresponds to our crimes. But this man has done nothing criminal." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied to him, "Amen, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." The Gospel of the Lord. In the Gospel, as Jesus hangs on the cross, everyone is worried about saving, about Jesus saving himself, about the others he saved in the past, about Jesus saving them right now. Everyone's concerned about saving. The rulers sneer at Jesus. "He saved others, let him save himself if he's the Christ." The soldiers jeer at Jesus, "Save yourself if you're the King of the Jews." One of the criminals says, "Save yourself and save us." In other gospel accounts, even as the people walk by and look up at Jesus in crucifixion, they say, again, "He saved others, let him save himself." 5 times in this short gospel passage, people are saying, "Save yourself or save others." Very much a lot of concern about saving. Yet in a real way, it's exactly what Jesus is doing by not coming down from the cross, right? By giving his life and his death for others, he truly is saving by staying up on the cross, although others don't see it that way. Hard for them to understand that. Certainly requires a great amount of faith at that time to believe it. But of course, by his death and resurrection, he does save himself and he does save others. The other repentant thief or criminal in the gospel, he doesn't ask to be saved. He just wants to be remembered. That's his only petition. He talks about fear of God as far as concerning his just punishment for the crimes that he has committed. He understands that he's done things that are wrong. He understands that in justice he's been condemned to die. That's legal. That's what the law says. That's justice. He understands that. And his words are not just about a specific crime necessarily. His words could be about the state of humanity, right? We've done things wrong. We're fallen. We've sinned. Even as we try to get back up, we've hurt the Lord and hurt his family, our brothers and sisters. In some sense, we've been condemned justly. We don't deserve heaven. And in justice, we don't get heaven, right? Can't say, "Lord, give me justice, give me heaven, because now I deserve it and I've earned it in some way." And so in some ways, the words of that repentant thief are also the words about humanity as well, not just about a specific crime that someone has committed. And so that good thief on the cross, his appeal to Jesus isn't, "Get me out of my sins," or "Get me off the hook for this one," or "Let me escape punishment," or "Don't show me justice. Don't be just anymore, God. Turn your eye the other way when it comes to being just, even though you're a just God." That's not his appeal. He's not asking God to be unjust. He's asking God to be merciful, simply. His appeal is not to justice from God. His appeal is to God's mercy. God's mercy which always triumphs over his justice. Even when we deserve other things, the Lord gives us mercy whenever we ask him. His appeal is to the mercy of Jesus. "Lord, I know I've done wrong. I have no excuses for what I did. I'm not asking you to give me injustice. I just ask for your forgiveness. Remember me. When you go to heaven, and I'm not there yet, remember me from heaven. He understands that heaven is a gift. Our lives on earth, however many years we have, are brief, passing years. I think there's a great human desire, something placed in our hearts maybe by God, for immortality and to go on forever in some ways. And the best that we can do about that as human beings is by remembering. It's the best that we can do. When someone moves away, or when you send your children off to school for the first time, you remember their early years. When you walk them down the aisle at their marriage, you remember them growing up in your house. Most especially when someone dies, maybe right before and right after, there's a flood of memories. It's really a human characteristic of ours to try to remember. And we take lots of pictures and lots of videos to that point, right? Trying to remember. And in a disaster, people say one of the first things they grab are pictures. That's the most precious thing that they have in their home, because there are memories there in pictures. And because our memories aren't very good for very long, right? The older we get, the more our memories fail. The faces of people blur, and their voices can't remember it so much anymore as the years have gone by. And again, a sign of our mortality and our humanity, that as much as we try to remember, we can't remember very, very well forever. We forget. But God's the one who never forgets, right? God's the one who always remembers our face, our voice, our prayers, our pleas. And maybe it's a little bit of a fear on our part that maybe that God forgets us from time to time. One of our deeper human fears, as Father Ron Rollheiser would say, kind of fears, Lord, did you hear my prayer? I kind of mentioned that last week and I haven't seen anything done. Or, Lord, I've been saying the same prayer for 10 years and nothing's changed. Or, I'm talking to you, Lord, on a daily basis, but do you hear me? Are you out there? Is there any response whatsoever? Have you forgotten me? Have you forgotten my plea? Have you forgotten my loved ones? Have you forgotten what I did for you? The faithful practice, the faithful things I've done for you over the years. Do you remember, Lord? And so in the gospel, everyone who says to Jesus, save yourself, and ask Jesus, save us, is ignored. Jesus doesn't respond to any of them. He doesn't say any word in reply. He gives no response whatsoever, and the only one he does respond to is the one who just says, remember me. And that's the man's only prayer, remember me. Jesus responds to him and says, in a sense, yes, I will remember you, because today you'll be with me in paradise. And so maybe we think a little later on in that day, as Jesus is in paradise and he welcomes the man to paradise as well that same day, maybe the man's response is simply, thank you for remembering me, and for doing more than remembering me, but for bringing me to where you are. You've done more than remember me, Jesus. When you bring me by yourself, you've actually saved me, something that everyone else was asking for. I asked to be remembered, and you saved me. They asked to be saved, and they were ignored. So maybe for us, while it's good, it's always good, nothing wrong with us asking for things from the Lord, right? Our prayers and petitions, the good things we ask of him for ourselves and others. But maybe I think as we mature in the spiritual life, and especially as we get closer to our own death and our own passing from this world, maybe it's not so much about asking for things over and over again and about getting them or not getting them. Or our faith should never be dependent upon what we ask for and what we get from God. But maybe it's more about remembering and thanking. Simply remember me, Lord. I remember the sins of my past. I remember the good things I've done as well. But remember me, Lord. And then I have some faith that as you remember me, you'll save me as well, right? So that when the thief asked Jesus to just remember him, there's a statement of faith there that maybe you'll save me too. I hope he'll also save me. I hope he'll see all the good that I did in my past, and I hope that by remembering me, Jesus saves me too. And that's a great statement of faith for us. As this year of faith comes to a conclusion today for the church throughout the world, And as we wind down, this is the end of our liturgical year as well, in the feast of Christ the King, it's good for us to always be renewed in our own faith, recognizing that as much as our faith is a gift from God, something we always ask Him for, we want stronger and firmer in our lives, that by remembering us and by asking Christ to remember us, it's a great statement in faith. And Jesus the King, who doesn't just remember us, but saves us too.